Hello and welcome to today's Advective weather update. Storms are ongoing across parts of the Atlantic and will continue to become more widespread into the late afternoon and evening hours today, with an enhanced 3 out of 5 risk in place, primarily for damaging thunderstorm winds, with the threat of very large hail focused across the southern part of this risk. Storms will be capable of producing widespread damaging winds, isolated very large hail, and perhaps a couple of tornadoes across much of the Atlantic today. The same can be said of the large hail and a couple of tornadoes also across that slight risk area in portions of Wyoming, South Dakota and Nebraska, but the wind threat is much lower there than on the east coast today. Looking at the overall setup, you can see the cold front that's been gradually pushing eastwards the past couple of days is now making it to the east coast and will move offshore tonight. Farther to the west, there's a pretty lax setup, but you can see a dry line providing some forcing to those storms across the second slight risk. Zooming in on locations today, you can see that enhanced risks comes from Charlotte and Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way up into northeast Pennsylvania, including Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington DC, Richmond, Norfolk, Raleigh, and Greensboro, to name but a few. And of course, that slight risk coming from the Great Lakes all the way down into South Carolina. The tornado threat is thankfully lower today than it was yesterday, where we saw quite a few probably strong tornadoes across parts of the Midwest and Mid-South. However, the wind threat is substantially higher than the tornado threat today. Not quite as much as yesterday, but we still could see a couple of isolated incidents of hurricane-force winds. Regardless, widespread wind damage is likely, the sort that will bring tree branches down, blow away lawn furniture if it's outside and not tied down, particularly trampolines and that sort of thing. So if you have any loose items outside, you have any tree branches that are likely to fall down, try and get that sorted before the storms arrive. And additionally, as mentioned, there is a threat for isolated large hail across the Carolinas. Here's the HRRR model output for today. You can see those storms fairly isolated but widespread, but there are some clusters that emerge, and these clusters will produce the stronger winds. Now, a few show up in this model, but they're not going to be exactly like this model shows. They could be more widespread, they could be less widespread. That's why there isn't a hatched risk in place. There's a little bit of uncertainty in how well developed and organised the storms will be able to get, before they move offshore, that is. Looking farther west, as mentioned, there is that slight risk across portions of the high plains, with, once again, a 2% tornado threat, not that high, but we have seen some interesting tornadoes and 2% risks over the years, so nothing to sniff at. A low wind risk, but another significant hail risk, a hatched area of 15% hail risk, including Rapid City, South Dakota, also including portions of northwest Nebraska and northeast Wyoming. And looking at the models, you can see nothing's going to be happening for the next couple of hours, and then it gradually picks up, maybe an isolated supercell here and there, and then as we get into the late night hours, there might be some slightly more organised storms that produce a bit of a wind threat as it moves eastwards into central South Dakota and north central Nebraska. But these storms are going to be isolated, but where they do occur, there could be some very large or even giant hail. So pay attention to those warnings, and if a storm producing very large hail is moving towards your location, seek shelter accordingly. Now, there aren't expected to be that many tornadoes today, but if you need any help knowing what to do in a dangerous severe weather situation, you can check out our comprehensive guide to severe weather down in the description. And that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. We hope you stay safe wherever you are in the world, and we'll be back whenever there is weather that needs a video making on it. Once again, thank you very much, and goodbye.